The travelers had come a long way and had a long way yet to go. Others on the road had told them that here they might find a spring with water so cold it would hurt your teeth. Here they might find a place of shelter and calm where they could bed down for the night. Here we come, too, to find a moment of refreshment and rest from our journeys. No matter where you are going on your journey, no matter if it is your choice to go or if you left by far away edict, no matter if you carry a burden or the deepest of joys, no matter how weary and thirsty you may be, pause here. Take a quiet breath. Rest in peacefulness. Be renewed and restored. For in a short while, the journey will continue with its worries and troubles and joys and promise. Until then, let us join together, minds and hearts, in worship. Please join in singing our opening hymn this morning. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit, Dark of Winter.
Dark of winter, soft and still, your quiet calm surrounds me. Let my thoughts go where they will, ease my mind profoundly, and then my soul will sing a song, a blessed song of love eternal. Gentle darkness, soft and still, bring your quiet to me. Darkness, soothe my weary eyes, that I may see more clearly. When my heart with sorrow cries, comfort and caress me. Then my soul may hear His voice, a still small voice of love eternal. Darkness, when my fears arise, let your peace flow through me.
I invite you to remain risen for our chalice lighting and covenant words.
These are the words of Crystal Hogan. We light this chalice to honor our work, to celebrate our community, and to bring hope and determination for the coming months as we continue the work of the congregation. Please join now in saying our covenant words, first in English, then in Spanish.
Love
Is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, thus do we covenant. La doctrina de esta iglesia es el amor. La búsqueda de la verdad es su sacramento, y el servicio es su oración. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar el conocimiento y libertad, servir a la humanidad en comunión. Este es nuestro pacto.
and because I know Todd doesn't have it in his welcome, because I don't think it made it back into our welcome after so far away, but I invite you to silence your cell phones if you haven't done so already.
I did. I remembered. Actually, it's on vibrate, so I don't know if that counts as silent. Good morning. To those of you here in our sanctuary and to those of you joining us on Zoom, I'd like to welcome you to Emerson Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Todd Covert, and it is my privilege to serve as worship associate for this morning's service. Emerson has been a home for progressive, inclusive, and inquisitive spirituality for well over 60 years. We welcome unreservedly members and guests who come seeking a faith tradition that centers individual dignity and worth, regardless of identity or condition, as well as the work of social, economic, and environmental justice. If these values resonate with your spirit, we hope you find welcome here. Those of us gathered here in person are committed to conscious and responsible connection to our surrounding community and a meaningful recognition that the grounds on which our church stands were part of the traditional homelands of the Chumash and Tongva peoples and were appropriated from them. Our appreciation for the spiritually nourishing work we do here as part of this welcoming and beloved community must always be tempered by that history and how we acknowledge it. If you have a joy or concern today that you would like shared with the community during our embracing meditation later in the service, I invite you to add it to our Book of Life on the table to my right, behind Kevin at the piano. Or if you're on Zoom, you can add it to our virtual Book of Life, which is linked from the chat. For those of you new to the community, I invite you to add your name to our guest book, whether the physical one at the welcome table out front or, again, a virtual version linked from the chat. Also, for our new visitors, whether here or online, and I hope this is not news to our longer-term members, let it be known that this is a special occasion today. This morning marks the last Sunday service for our settled minister, Reverend McHale, before he embarks on his first sabbatical leave since taking up his ministry here. Reverend Matthew will not be joining us for Sunday worship again for 5 months, turning over the responsibilities of spiritual stewardship to our appointed sabbatical minister, Joshua Berg, and to the shared ministry of this congregation, which is a hallmark of Unitarian Universalism. 5 months. 5 months? 5 months, which sees us through the winter solstice this week to well past May Day. As Reverend Matthew steps away from Emerson on a relatively brief journey of discovery and renewal, the dark passage from winter to spring invites a natural turning inward, seeking the light and warmth of the hearth amid the winter dark, and a shedding of all that is not truly essential to sustaining the self during a period of isolation and self-reliance. A time to hibernate, if you will. Hibernation. You might recognize a little bit of French in the word, hiver, meaning winter, a word which comes to us from a Latin term for a winter sanctuary. If I set Reverend Matthew's sabbatical and the Emerson congregation's experience of it alongside it, and put it alongside the notion of hibernation, it suggests some fruitful responses to being thrown onto one's own resources just as the light is dimming and the weather is turning less than sustaining. 3 years ago, I stood here alongside Reverend Matthew as worship associate for a winter solstice-themed service we called Hope in the Dark. I'm very much reminded of that service and its imagery today. This being the 4th year that I've participated in a Sunday service at the winter solstice weekend, some of you may have become aware of my attachment to the customs and lore of the pagan antiquity of Ireland. And so for me, the thought of moving out and at the same time moving inward brings to mind the training of the ancient sacred poets of Ireland. Anecdotes from medieval times there, which may reflect pre-Christian customs, told of sacred poets in training going into isolated huts or cloisters to meditate and to compose. They were understood to take with them all the sights and the sounds and the feelings of a half a year abroad in both society and the wild landscape around it, retreating then into incubation and isolation, yes, into the hibernation in the dark of winter and the dead of the night, and freed from distraction. Their spirits could take flight, blazing with what the Irish called the Silta Tenna, the fire in the head, confronting joys and sorrows and even fears, and emerging at the return of the light with gifts newly composed to put before the community, brought forth from this newly cultivated soul, songs and verse, and above all, a heightened connection to the divine. We understand that Reverend Matthew undertakes his sabbatical in a spirit of renewal, and that part of that is a journey outward and also inward for an encounter with the self. But as we bid him, not goodbye, but au revoir, we as a congregation should not turn a blind eye to the opportunity that this affords us for a like encounter with our collective self and for reflection and renewal. We wish many blessings to Matthew in his sabbatical. That was lovely. Thank you so much. I'm standing here today in the pulpit as worship associate. Some Sundays I'm sitting there as a congregant in the pews. Occasionally I'm out in the foyer as an usher, and every so often I'm hiding away up in our crow's nest, as we call it. Adam's waving hi from the crow's nest. Thank you for being up there. But one hat I also wear that's not so visible on a Sunday is that I serve as Emerson's treasurer. And it's at this time of year, the year end, as we start to prepare summations of the congregation's generosity in all its breadth and depth, that I find myself appreciative of how this congregation endeavors to step forward to meet its responsibilities as a self-supporting congregation, which is another, the word I used earlier, hallmark of Unitarian Universalism. So as we approach year end, your past contributions have been gratefully received, make no mistake, and now I invite your Sunday contributions, which we will now gratefully receive, if the ushers can take the contributions. I neglected to say, and I should, and I apologize, that donations for those of you on Zoom can be made via the donate link at the emersonuuc.org website, or the Give Plus app, or send a check. Thank you all again for your generous support.
And now we take time in our service to lift up the joys and sorrows from within our community and in the wider world. This week in our virtual book of life, in our we'll get to that in a second if there's anything there. In our corporeal book of life. Melissa Marotte asks for healing energy and prayers to Karen Matthews, Melissa's mother in Ohio, who's been diagnosed with idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. And prayers to Jamie and Luciana, whose brother, the uncle for Luci, died on Tuesday from kidney failure. Susan Siskin shares that today is Molly's 29th birthday. A joy is to have Karen Rose here today, and Karen Rose's joy is to be here today. Two joys. Back from Pennsylvania. And I can't read who it's from, but for their son, Edward, acceptance, hope, faith, healing, and peace and love. In our virtual book of life, which, there we go. It's a little bit different when you're not just on your computer running things from Zoom. And nothing there. But in a moment, I'm going to sound this singing bowl, and after I do, I invite you to speak into this space or type into the chat any joys or sorrows, any names or occasions that are on your heart, on your mind this morning, and that you would like lifted up into this community, in this, our embracing meditation. Jasmine, Debbie, Lynn, Hermely and her family, all that has been shared, and all which is too tender yet to share, but which we hold in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. We offer these into the embrace of this beloved community. I invite you now to enter a period of quiet for a guided meditation. You may wish to adjust your position so that your spine is straight, your body relaxed, your hands resting gently in your lap. You will probably want to close your eyes and shut out all the distractions of the light. Let us take a few deep, slow breaths. with vision muted. Notice what your other senses are telling you. You may feel a sense of pressure in your back or your sitting bones, where your body comes in contact with your chair. You may have feelings of tightness in your shoulders, along the jawline. Release any areas of tension that you notice. Soften the neck. Release any tension you feel in your abdomen. Imagining the inner organs in your belly just letting go of tension. Soften your eyes. Let them feel warm and relaxed as if floating in a pool of water. Inhale. Exhale. You may notice strange sensations such as tingling in a muscle or a ticklish feeling on the skin. Whatever comes to your awareness is okay. Just acknowledge it in the silence. Let us turn our attention to the sounds around us now. What do you notice in the sanctuary or the room you're in? You may hear your own breathing or a growling stomach. You may hear a neighbor shifting position. Perhaps cars passing on the street, and wind blowing by the outer walls of the building. Having acknowledged these outward sounds, let us turn our focus inward now. Thoughts may float through your consciousness. You can just let them float right on by. Feelings may bubble up from some deeper place within you. You don't have to name the feeling or put any words to it. Just notice if there is anything there for you with gentle acceptance. Now imagine your body and mind are filled with darkness and silence, like the deep, dark night in a wilderness. Take comfort in the stillness, the restfulness of this space within you. Don't try to make anything happen. Just rest into this inner darkness, knowing that you are safe in this moment. You can simply be. Breathe in and out. In the quiet corners within, let us sense the healing powers of the body, the amazing ability of our soft animal body to restore damaged cells, to create new healthy cells, to bring balance to systems that have gotten out of whack. Let us acknowledge, too, the creative powers of our minds and hearts. From the mysterious inner regions comes all poetry, all music. From the inner dark emerges all sculpture and dance, all the art and cultures that are the heritages of humanity, even consciousness itself. The great unsolved mystery of science resides in the deep unknown of ourselves. Continue to be with your breath and a still, quiet mood as you rest a little longer in the darkness with humility and awe and gratitude for all the powers of the darkness within yourself.
From all the fret and fever of the day, let there be moments when we turn away, and deaf to all confusing outer din, intently listening for the voice within. In quietness and solitude we find the soundless wisdom of the deeper mind, and with clear harmonious purpose let us then bring richer meaning to the world again.
In Celebration of the Winter Solstice by Stephanie Noble. Do not be afraid of the darkness. Dark is the rich, fertile earth that cradles the seed, nourishing growth. Dark is the soft night that cradles us to rest. Only in darkness can stars shine across the vastness of space. Only in darkness is the moon's dance so clear. There is mystery woven in the dark, quiet hours. There is magic in the darkness. Do not be afraid. We are born of this magic. It fills our dreams that root, unravel, and reweave themselves in the shelter of the deep, dark night. The dark has its own hue, its own resonance, its own breath. It fills our soul, not with despair, but with promise. Dark is the gestation of our deep and knowing self. Dark is the cave where we rest and renew our soul. We are born of the darkness, and each night we return to the deep, moist womb of our beginnings. Do not be afraid of the darkness, for in the depths of that very darkness comes a first glimpse of our own light, the pure inner light of love and knowing. As it glows and grows, the darkness recedes. As we shed our light, we shed our fear and revel in the wonder of all that is revealed. So do not rush the coming of the sun. Do not crave the lengthening of the day. Celebrate the darkness here and now. A time of richness, a time of joy.
I love this time of year. I like the holiday traditions, being with friends and family, singing Silent Night at the candlelight Christmas Eve service. And just as a reminder to remember to RSVP if you want to come in person, I expect we may exceed our capacity, so please do that. The RSVP is on the website. And also it's emersonuc.org/Christmas-RSVP. We'll be sending out another email. And I know some people have had issues with the online sign-up. If you do, you can just give a call to the office and we can do that for you. And just as a reminder, because Todd didn't mention it, although this is my last Sunday with you, it's not my last service with you. So I will be with you again on Friday evening, 5:30, and I greatly look forward to that. I love this time of year, the excitement of my daughter opening presents on Christmas morning, getting cozy with a warm cup of tea, and how much easier the garden is to maintain. And one of my favorites at this time of year is all of the year-end top 10 lists. Best albums of the year, the best movies, books, and TV shows. The year-end lists let me know what I missed and maybe what I'd like to check out. So on my last Sunday morning with you, I thought it would be fun to share 3 top 5 lists about my sabbatical. First, the top 5 reasons sabbaticals are important. Second, the top 5 things I'm planning for my sabbatical. And last, the top 5 things I hope for you all during this time. But before I get into my first list, I want to state the obvious. As my colleague Sharon Wiley wrote in her pre-sabbatical sermon, I didn't become a minister in order to leave the congregation and to be apart from you for months at a time. Don't get me wrong, I'm grateful to be going on sabbatical and I'm looking forward to it. But I believe taking sabbaticals is an incredibly important practice for ministers. And here are the top 5 reasons why. Number 1, we need it for our well-being. In 2010, the New York Times reported that members of the clergy suffer from obesity, hypertension, and depression at rates higher than most Americans. From 2000 to 2010, their use of antidepressants had risen while their life expectancy had fallen. I don't know whether that trend continued, but after the past year plus so, I would imagine. Although I imagine it has for many of us, frankly. There is no simple explanation for this, as there are likely multiple intersecting causes, but one of the best remedies, as the article goes on to say, is taking more time off. And as much as I may love and care deeply about ministry, it is not worth sacrificing my health for it. Nor should it be for any job, as many people have come to realize over the course of this pandemic. Number 2, sabbaticals make for longer and more successful ministries. Over the past few decades, the vast majority of our Unitarian Universalist churches have begun offering their ministers more and more the opportunity to take a sabbatical after 4 to 7 years, with 1 month for every year of service. I've finished 5 years, and so 5 months. And to use this as a time to learn, to replenish and renew, and return with fresh ideas and spirit for our shared ministries. When I'm rested and recharged, I can show up more fully, better resourced, and be a better minister. The word sabbatical comes from the same root as Shabbat or Sabbath, the day of rest. And a sabbatical in the Hebrew Bible referred to the agricultural practice of letting the land fallow, letting it rest every 7 years so that the soil health would improve, regenerate, and be more fertile the following year. Similarly, the sabbatical can improve the quality of ministry. And ministers who take sabbaticals also have longer ministries, both in terms of how long they serve their churches and the length of their overall career as ministers. And I want to be in this challenging and beautiful thing that is ministry for the long haul. And that means it's got to be sustainable. Because 3, we all need a break. And parish ministers don't get much of one. And that's not just because I typically work 6 days a week, but also because I can't turn off being a minister just like flipping off a light switch. I've had those jobs, and ministry is not one of them. I think about this church, and I think about you all of the time. I worry about you. To quote Sharon Wiley again, you may think, he doesn't mean me, but I assure you I do. If you are a first-time visitor, I worry about what hurt or yearning brought you here. And I worry you will give up too soon, that if you don't make friends right away, you'll retreat and you'll miss out. I could make a list for you of people who've come here once or twice or even regularly for a while and then drifted away, and I worry about all of those people. All of that is true for me too. And now I worry about how we will connect with people who are attending via Zoom. I worry about you when I'm getting ready in the kitchen fixing breakfast. I worry about you when I'm in the garden on my day off. I worry about you when I'm out on a hike. I worry about you when I wake up at 3 a.m. with my mind racing. Sharon continues, if I know anything about your life, I worry about you. I want what's best for you. I worry about your children and your parents and your relationship with your partners, your friendships with each other. I worry about your resistance to change. I worry about your anger and your grief and your fear. When I'm away for an extended time, one of my longer vacations and combined study leaves, it actually takes me about 2 weeks for me to stop thinking about worrying about church regularly. I still do it, but it doesn't become quite so often. But this summer, 3 weeks into my vacation, the Delta variant began to spread. And I started worrying about how that would impact our reopening plans, as it greatly did. And so one of the reasons it helps to get an extended break is that I can actually switch off work mode for real. And one of the things that switching that off in some ways actually allows me to be more attentive to the wider call of ministry, which brings us to 4. A sabbatical can help you see the bigger picture. When you're in the middle of it, just trying to focus on the details and managing the day-to-day of ministry, it can be hard to see the forest for the trees. Cal Newport, a computer scientist at Georgetown University and author of Deep Work, Rules for Focus, Success, and a Distracted World, says we are downplaying the problems created by constant interruption. We are weakening our ability to do the most challenging kinds of work, which require sustained attention. Our chronic multitasking is making it harder for us to solve complex problems, and we deny ourselves the satisfaction that comes from fully devoting ourselves to a task. So a sabbatical is also a time when we can take a step back and see the big picture. To tap into that ability to dream and envision that becomes more possible during periods of rest and retreat. Some of the great thinkers like Carl Jung and Mark Twain did their greatest work when they were away on retreat. Or like those Celtic poets that Todd mentioned. Number 5, because part of being a minister is modeling self-care and healthy boundaries. And what example does it set when I'm preaching the importance of healing and rest and renewal, and I am not taking care of myself too? You know, I've been reading with fascination about the causes and feelings behind the great resignation that we are in right now, and the way countless people are reevaluating their relationship to work right now. You know, as someone who's been preaching about work-life balance for years, I'm so glad we are having these conversations right now and seeing things shift. And of course, this applies to me too. I think everybody, frankly, should be able to take a sabbatical, not just clergy and academics. You know, the good news is that the trend is growing in nonprofits. You know, my wife took one several years ago when she was working for Greenpeace, and even some parts of the corporate world. Moreover, we need paid leave off for paid time off for parental leave, for family leave, for mental health care. Sabbaticals are just one way to model a healthier work-life balance. And now the top 5 things I'm planning for my sabbatical. Number 1, resting. After years of 6-day work weeks, I am really looking forward to more rest. Catching up on sleep, curling up with a good book, laying out in my hammock and listening to the songbirds. Now, rest may actually take different forms. For me, I find spending time in the garden incredibly restful. Certainly not physically, but certainly mentally and spiritually. So it probably doesn't surprise most of you that I plan to spend a lot of time in my garden. Last year, I began transforming our new backyard into a miniature food forest. And now we've got more than 20 fruit trees, plus several vines and berries and asparagus and artichoke. So I'll be continuing that project, improving the soil and planting more annuals. But I'll also be starting a new project, transforming our front yard into a drought-tolerant native garden that also can support the bees that I have started caring for. Number 2. Spending more time with family and friends. That means not having to rush off after dinner for a meeting multiple nights a week. Being able to put my daughter to bed more often, and especially spending the weekend doing activities together rather than working on the service all day Saturday and then needing to take a nap after church on Sunday because I didn't get enough sleep the night before. So I'm not sure exactly what it will be, but some combination of camping and hiking and backpacking, skiing, maybe heading to the beach when it warms up, going to see a show or to visit a museum. Family game nights, a weekend road trip up the coast, or a longer trip over my daughter's spring break. Plus, time with friends, deepening relationships with new friends who've got kids my daughter's age, and reconnecting with friends I've known for decades who I don't see as much. Number 3, helping out around the house more. This one is especially for my wife. Long gone are the days when most ministers are men with stay-at-home wives who don't have a job outside of the house, and yet our expectations about ministry are still catching up to that reality. So this is a time to tip the scales of housework back in the other direction, doing more of the cooking with all of that food we're growing, and cleaning and childcare, as well as working on some bigger projects around the house, and volunteering at my daughter's school, perhaps, or with her Girl Scout troop. Number 4, developing my ministerial skills. I'm going to be attending the UU Minister Association's Center Institute for the Learning Ministry in San Diego, where I will be connecting with other ministers in the end of January, beginning of February. Because another vital part of healthy ministries, which is another vital part of healthy ministries. And I'll be taking seminars on spiritual development for Unitarian Universalists and on empowering resilience in staff management. And I've got a few books on my list that are related to church work as well. And finally, 5, having unplanned time to be open to whatever comes. As the Reverend Russ Mank says, we can't schedule spiritual insight. We can't plan in glimpses of the sacred. We can't slate in time to be speechlessly awed. We can, however, make space for opportunities. We can be spiritually postured for feeling nudges from God or the universe, and we can be open to feel and see the beauty always around us. And finally, the top 5 things I hope for you all during the sabbatical. Number 1, that this is a time for leadership to flourish. Church is not about the minister. It's about all of us. That's why we call it a shared ministry. Of course, we have our sabbatical team, Clinton Bench, Lynn Masuhara, Susan Siskin, Linda Morris, and Louise Rovner, plus our office administrator, Deborah Posner, will be helping steer the ship, so to speak, keeping an eye on choppy waters ahead. And can we just give a round of applause for them, for their work so far, and the work that they will be doing in the coming months. And of course, we have Joshua Berg, our sabbatical minister, who will also help support the congregation, but he's only quarter time, and so he'll be leading worship twice a month and helping out with pastoral care and supporting the board. And so while I know I'm leaving things in capable hands, I truly hope that you will find some way to contribute that's right for you. Some of you may already be contributing enough that's right for you, and I honor and respect that. And this is also an invitation to step in, to move in. Not only because serving can be a powerful way to grow, but also, of course, your service is needed. There's a lot to get done. So I invite you to move into leadership positions, to stretch yourselves, to take flight. And as you do, I hope your creativity, ideas, and commitment and renewal can emerge. Number 2, that you be kind and take care of one another. That's it. Number 3, I hope you enjoy hearing the diversity of voices in our pulpit and styles of worship services that are planned for the sabbatical. You'll, of course, be hearing from our sabbatical minister, Joshua Berg. His first Sunday with us will be January 9th. And we'll also have several other UU ministers gracing our pulpit, including next week, although virtually, the Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, who's the UUA president. And just a note, next week our Sunday service will be all online. So if you show up here, maybe someone might volunteer to put it on a computer and you can sit down in front of it, and we'll send out a reminder about that. So next week, everything will be online. And we'll have, like I said, several ministers gracing our pulpit, plus some lay-led services like our annual fire communion to mark the turning of the new year, and our Memorial Day service of remembrance, a service led by our pagan group, and some Sundays where lay leaders will be preaching, at least one of them for the first time. So I hope you enjoy the unique and varied perspectives and insights that each one of them will bring. I sometimes feel like preaching so often here, I'm always trying to come up with new things to say and different ways to say it. And they will all do that beautifully in their own way. Number 4, I hope you miss me. And I don't say that to be egotistical or vain, but because it will make the coming back together that much sweeter. And I know that rested and renewed, I will be really looking forward to seeing you all again. Number 5, I hope you take care of yourself, that you continue to find rest and prioritize healing for yourself. Because we have all been through, are still going through so much. That may mean you need to let go of some things for the time being. Let things be good enough. I hope this can be a time for you all to reflect on what is important and what can be set aside, particularly in this liminal space of coming back after so long apart, even though we are not coming back to the way things were before. And so it's okay to let things go for a while if they need to, if they can. We are different, changed, and my wish for you is deepened reflection as well. May this sabbatical be a good time for us all. I invite you now to join me in singing our closing hymn, May Your Life Be As a Song. Please rise in body or in spirit.
Is this on? Yes, it is. In a moment, I'm going to invite forward a member of the aforementioned sabbatical team to speak. Before I do, I just wanted to take a second to translate the theme of today's service from English to geek culture and say, Reverend Matthew, as you go into the dark cave in Dagobah and confront your greatest adversary who stands revealed as yourself, as Carl Jung would put it, as you go forth on the encounter with the self, I hope it brings you genuine inspiration, renewed vocation, and deep peace. And so I'd like to invite our president and member of the sabbatical team, Clinton Bench, to say what might be on his mind at this occasion.
And you can be seated. I don't know how long he's going to go for. So.
I don't think it's never a good idea to say. A little closer. Oh, thank you, because of the camera. Can everyone hear me?
You can also use the pulpit.
Okay. I would also just kind of question Todd in asking me to say whatever's on my mind, because that's generally a dangerous request when it comes to me. So thank you. I just want to say thank you to Reverend Matthew for all that he has done for us over the course of the last, 6 years now? 5+ years. I think many of us remember fondly that moment when he first preached to us and when we gathered together as a congregation to call him as our settled minister. And I knew he was nervous. I knew we were all nervous, but we were all excited about what it would bring. And it's brought many amazing moments, much community, vibrancy for this church, and thank heavens, I just also think about a couple of key moments in our society with the election of Donald Trump as president, which for many of us was so shattering to our psyche and scary for our nation and for our church, and thinking of Reverend Matthew bringing us together that next day to witness what had occurred and state together that we would be resilient and we would hold firm to our values, our faith. And I think too of the beginning of the pandemic and the care that he had for us and the care that everyone here had for each other, and navigating something that none of us had ever experienced. And I guess that's my greatest thank you, is for all that he's done over the course of the last 18 months in finding new and creative ways to bring us together in community. So grateful for what we've been able to do and still be able to bring people remotely here to this church. So it sounds like we're just, okay, it's been wonderful having you as a minister. All right, on to your next congregation. No. That's not my point. It's also just to say, I just want to say as the president of the congregation, this is a moment that I think is really important for Reverend Matthew to step back into himself, into his family, and frankly, into this church. As he said, these 5 months are not a time to leave Emerson behind, forget about it, and do nothing for it. Indeed, it's just the opposite. Very much excited about what he will bring renewed back to our congregation, and I know that we will all be on his minds. And frankly, we're going to have a good time over the course of the next 5 months with Joshua Berg and all of our lay-led services. Our guest-led services. We're going to do all those normal things as well. We're going to have a fun fundraiser, getting back in the swing of things. We're going to hopefully have some potlucks maybe outside. So a deep breath and gratitude from me to you, Reverend Matthew, and I will hand the microphone back to Todd in case there was somebody else that he wanted to bring forward, or there you go.
Spoken
Thank you.
well. Thank you.
I invite you to just reach out. We're still not taking hands at this moment, unless you're, sitting next to someone in your pod. You can take their hand. That's okay. But just, feel that energy out there in the space between each of us, or across the distance for those of you on Zoom. We leave this gathered community, but we don't leave our connection, our concerns, our care for each other, our service to each other, to the world, and to our faith continues. Until we are together, friends, be strong, be well, be true, be loving.
Some trails are happy ones, others are blue. It's the way you ride the trail that counts. Here's a happy one for you. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds when we're together? Just sing a song or sing us early rather. Happy trails to you till we meet again. Happy trails to you till we meet in May.